We're on chapter 3, more about alcoholism, and we're starting uh, basically on the third paragraph, but I'm just going to recap that third paragraph so that we've got a bit of catch up here. So, third paragraph down, starting, we alcoholics. So, we alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to, and we circled and asterisked the word control, our drinking. So, and I've highlighted lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no, and then real alcoholic ever, and notice that ever is in italics, recovers control. So this is paramount to self-will. It's if you've ever felt that you've gone into an evening and said, I'm only going to have one, and you've ended up in blackout or somewhere that you would rather not remember, then this is exactly what we're talking about here. And this is very clear. We know, so this is with certainty, that no real alcoholic, and that's for you to diagnose. So if you take one drink and you don't know where that drink is going to take you, you may well be a real alcoholic. You have to diagnose it. And then it says, here's the cautionary tale, ever recovers, and again, circle the word, control. We know that we do not ever have self-will that will stop us from drinking. And we also know, as we move into this program, that self-will is the center of our problem. All of us felt at times that we were regaining, circle it again, there it is, control. But such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed, highlighted, inevitably followed by still less, and circle it again, control. Okay, I think Bill's trying to make a point here. How many times is he using the word control in 3 sentences? Okay, and then he says, which led in time. So maybe not the first time you go out and try it, you may just be able to have one drink. But in time, so underline that, in time, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. In other words, that feeling when you wake up the next morning and you go, oh my God, I did it again. That's where me exercising control takes me. There is no controlled drinking. Not if you're a real alcoholic like I am. We are convinced to a man that we are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of, okay, big one, I've got this one in blue, progressive illness. Progressive illness. Okay, this is not the case that you get a year under your belt and you decide it's a good idea that you can drink like normal people, that you're going to actually start from a position of health. You're going to start right from where you left off. And that is my experience as a chronic relapser. I went from 0 to 60 in no time because AA partially ruined my drinking as much as anything. I could no longer drink and enjoy it because I knew I was allergic. I knew what I was doing. And then I would just convince myself, well, I've had one, might as well just, ever done that? I've blown it now, so I'll just keep going. Or I've opened the bottle now, I might as well empty it. Or I bought 2 and there's one still there, I might as well empty that one too because I've started. This is where one drink takes us. That's not what normal people do. So the sooner that you come to peace with the fact that you will never drink normally, the better, because it is the fantasy, and it says this right later in the book, of every alcoholic that one day he or she will drink again like a normal person. We know that isn't what happens. So progressive illness, guys, that's a warning and a promise. Over any considerable period we get worse, never better. Bill is not using, soft language here. He said, ever recover control, never better. There is, and I've written next to this, there's never a cure. We can recover, but we're never cured. So if you have some sort of fantasy that you're hanging on to, that after a certain period of time, it's okay to give it a go again, then you're still at step one. You have not admitted that you are powerless over this stuff. And I've made an arrow to that first sentence, lost the ability to control our drinking. That's a definition of powerlessness. I take a drink and the drink takes me. I am powerless over alcohol. I am powerless over certain substances. And that can vary as we go into sobriety. It can become sugar. It can become relationships. We can start to make all sorts of things our higher power other than alcohol. And that's why we do these steps over and over again. And you can replace the word alcohol with something that is triggered alcoholic-like thinking. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's called emotional sobriety. Alrighty, so we're in the last paragraph on the page, chapter 3. Okay, I've highlighted this one because this is a famous quote. You'll hear this in meetings all the time. We are like men, okay, include women, any gender, who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. So accept it. That's what this is saying. You're allergic. You've got a disease. And any part of your brain that is telling you otherwise is what you're relapsing on. And you may have an excuse like, oh my God, I was doing my step 4 and I took a look at something and I just, it made me feel trauma. That's what you drink at. Oh my God, my ex-husband just told me a few home truths, or, I've had a financial setback, or whatever it is. This is what we drink at, because we've already made up our minds in the back of our head that we're going to drink again, rather than feel the disappointment, the anger, whatever, and again, I remind you guys of the hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Halt. When you start to get twitchy thinking, are you just hungry? Is your blood sugar gotten out of whack again? Better to put on a few pounds than it is to let that happen and cause you to pick up a drink. Are you angry? Is there something going on in your head? Have you got a resentment brewing? Resentments are what we drink at, guys. And you're not at a point in your program where you've gotten rid of them all, presumably. Okay, lonely. Lonely is just taking one of us out. Went back to their old way of living because couldn't pick up the phone to talk to one of us about coping with loneliness for an hour. It's that easy. And T is tired. Sometimes you just need to get your head on the pillow now. Binge watch Mum. Listen to Let Me Put You to Sleep with the Sober Living playlist, or the prayer playlist. Just zone out, but get a subliminal message that reinforces your program. Get your head on the pillow. And that's also why we check in this group. And if we've now got just one chat going, we check in at night and say, got my head on the pillow sober tonight. It's accountability. Okay, so we've lost our legs. We're not going to get new ones. Bottom of the page on 30, neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. Well, how many other ways have you tried? Have you tried treatment centers? Have you tried rehab? Have you tried therapists? It's just saying right there, there's lots of us who go out and try all sorts of treatments. And I did, but this is working for me. So that's the good news. Okay, top of 31. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there's been brief recovery. You know, go to rehab and then you stay sober for a couple months after that because you've had the disconnect from the substances, but maybe you didn't get a program. Maybe you didn't get taught how to live outside of it. In some instances, brief recovery followed always by a still worse relapse. Underline that. And right next to it, progressive. Never cured. Hello. I did not hear this for my first 20 years dancing in and around AA. And I certainly didn't have the insight to know, because nobody ever explained this to me. And I don't know if I'd have heard it if they had done. It's progressive. Look at your patterns. Look back at your last binge. Was it worse than the one before? Is it taking less time? Is it pretty much a certainty that that's where it's going to go? If you can answer yes to any of these, maybe you're a real alcoholic. Okay, so it says physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is, and I've highlighted it, no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. No chance. You're powerless. Your life is unmanageable as a result of your drinking or your using. Step one. It's right there. And that's the point. That's the only step we can do perfectly. And as a chronic relapser, looking back on my years of relapsing, I never did step one. I did step one light. Like I was 95% in, but I wasn't going to take the bit about I'm never going to be able to ever do it again. Couldn't get my head there. So I never really came into the room and sat squarely down in my chair and did this whole thing with rigorous honesty, because I still had a get out of AA free card. You know, like I really didn't want to be here in the first place. And now that I'm in it, I wasn't in it to win it. I was in it to just get to the point where I could drink again like other people. That was my story. Okay, so we're on the top of 31. Despite all we can say, many who are, again, real alcoholics, self-diagnosed guys, are not going to believe that they are in that class. So this is where we relapse, right? It's right there, guys. You don't believe you're in that class. You don't think that you're the same as the guy that's been homeless living on the street. You don't think you're the same as the people that drive you crazy that are coming in and constantly saying they're relapsing. You're no different. You're no different than me. And highlight this, by every form of self-deception. What is self-deception? Denial. Well, I haven't got it as bad as everybody else. Or enough time dry and I'm going to be fine. Okay, by every form of self-deception and experimentation. Ever tried to have dry Januaries? You know, and how did that work out for you? Did you not go back drinking just the same as you always did afterwards? So what if you had a month sober? That's called sobriety. That's called white knuckling it. That's not having any program. So what is that? Self-deception and experimentation, right? So write your example there. Swore off January, switched to light beer, only drank wine, only drank on the weekends, only drank after 6 o'clock, never had the morning drink. You can add your own list here, so just take a look at it. And the one thing I've asterisked and written next to this is, I have no control. I'm powerless over that first drink. Now, here's something I want you to think about, because this had huge impact on me early in the program. People were talking about killing themselves, how they got so low down the scale that they wanted to end their lives. And we had a really honest discussion about it one night, and I never wanted to die. I was also in complete denial of what my blood work and the doctors were telling me. Heck, I had a physiotherapist moving my body because I couldn't move it myself. That's how far down the scale I'd gone. And I was still in denial that I needed to be in here. I didn't want to die. I was just kind of indifferent. So, this is what we're talking about here, every form of self deception. I look back on it now and it's complete friggin' insanity. I'd get 3 months, I'd get 6 months, I'd get a year, I'd get several years. And inevitably, something would tell me that I could drink like normal people, or I'd switch one for the other. I was an opiate addict for years with I've had 9 joints replaced. Right? And then when I couldn't get that after the opiate crisis, I switched to alcohol. And then when I stopped alcohol, I started having disordered eating again. Like it's just anything to not feel. Okay, so then it says we're now on the middle of the paragraph on page 31. If anyone who is showing inability to control, what am I going to ask you to do to that word? Okay, his drinking or her drinking can do the right about face. In other words, turn around and drink like a gentleman or a gentlewoman. Hats off to him. Heaven knows we've all tried hard enough. So just be honest with yourself. Your last bender, did you intend to do what you did? Only you can answer that. My answer always was, I never knew what was going to happen after I took the first drink. You know, sometimes I would get myself through the whole evening and nurse a drink, and then I'd wait till everybody left and get hammered. But I sure wouldn't let you see it. And then everybody knew anyway, because I'd have to have a couple before the evening started to get my confidence up to be able to deal with everybody. I didn't think anyone knew. Everyone always knows. Okay, so here we are. This is, okay, I want you guys to think about this. I want you to relate to this, and I want you to think about your own examples of how you tried to control your drinking or change your drinking up, okay? And I want you to tick if next to any of these that you can identify with, and later go back through the list and add your own. Here are some of the methods that we've tried. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines. Today it would be like craft beer. Agreeing to resign if you're ever drunk on the job. Taking a trip, not taking a trip. Swearing off forever, with or without the solemn oath. Taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting a voluntary commitment to an asylum. We could increase this list and ad infinitum. This was written almost 100 years ago, and it's all the same today. You know, switching it up, making little rules about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, playing the game in our head to justify the fact that we know we aren't drinking like normal people. So we go, and I love it when I get the January, swear it off for January, and then watch what happens in February. It's an incredibly popular month for newcomers in AA. Okay, so that's a little, I can't put it down without the help of an outside force. So I hope you're seeing in that paragraph a couple of things: the powerlessness, the insanity. So reflect on that. Last paragraph on 31. We do not like to pronounce any individual an alcoholic. It's not for me to tell you you are, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. I highlighted that because I've got, yeah, right, man. I knew as soon as I started hearing your stories, I'd found my people. You've got what I've got. I mean, nobody else gets me because I love my partner of 23 years, but he can't identify with how my brain works. He can recognize the patterns. And, even now it's like, well, don't you think you need a meeting? I want to punch him. But he's right. He knows me, right? The brain started doing this. So we laugh about it. And I highly recommend, if you're in a relationship or you're trying to explain to somebody how to understand you, get them to watch the Netflix series or a Prime Video series if you're in Canada called Mom, M-O-M. Binge watch that. Like there's 8 seasons, 22 episodes. It's based on real alcoholics in an AA meeting, and it's hilarious. And the message is true. The AA message is true. Okay, so we're at the bottom of 31. So I'm not telling you you're an alcoholic. You're going to figure this. Have you got this thing? Do you think you've got this thing? Like, do you need more convincing at this point? Not if you think you're a real alcoholic. Because every time you say in a meeting, hi, I'm Jill, I'm an alcoholic. Am I just saying that because everybody else is saying it? Or am I taking step 1? Yeah, I got this thing. This is my thing. I've got it. Give me my medicine. Right? That's what I do every morning and meditate at 8. When I say, hi, I'm Jill, I'm a grateful, recovered alcoholic. Doesn't mean I'm cured. I've got this thing, and that's what I'm telling you. But today, it doesn't rule my life because I come in and I get my medicine for it every day. So then it says, so if you want to diagnose yourself and you're not sure you belong in here, here's the advice they give us. Bottom of 31. And as hard as it is for me to say this to sponsees, I have done it. Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Try to drink and stop doing it abruptly. Or I'll say, buy a big box of white wine and have 1 glass. Okay, that's a modern version of it. Okay, then try it more than once, right? It will not take long for you to decide. If you are, and underline this, honest with yourself. And this is why I kept relapsing. I was never honest with myself because I wasn't done drinking. I still romanticized my life drinking. In my head, there was some sort of screwed up notion that a life with alcohol was somehow better than a life without one. I mean, are you kidding me? Today, I can do everything and more, much, much more that I did when I was drinking, and I remember it. Okay, so then it says, it will not take you long for you to decide if you're honest with yourself about it. It may be worth a bad case of the jitters if you get full knowledge of your condition. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. But in the difficulty is that few alcoholics Have enough desire to stop while there is still time, while you're really young. We have heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here is one. Okay, this is the story we're going to call the man of 30. Now, you've probably heard it before, but I love a man of 30. Okay, a man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. In other words, this guy's going out on regular benders, and he's found that in the morning he needs to have a drink to calm his stomach, his headache. Now, not if you've ever done it. Let's just be honest. Taken the morning drink? I have. Okay, I swore I never would, but I did. Okay, quiet, but I always said to myself, like this guy is, so identify with this guy. It's a man of 30, but it could be a woman of 63, right? This is where the identification with these pages is so important. I'm not just telling you a story, I'm inviting you to write your own Kim of whatever, or, whatever your name is, whatever your age is. This is your story, okay? So he has the morning drink. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. That is my experience. I'm not a man, I wasn't a man of 30, but I was a young lawyer in my 20s, and I never drank and I never used. I was on a mission. Once I started, I had no control over that. That was my experience. If I ever went out for an occasion, I was always over the top. It may only have been a couple times a year, but I always drank to excess at that occasion. Then I made up in my mind, it says here, he made up his mind that until he'd been successful in business and retired, he would not touch another drop. I did exactly that. I worked as an international lawyer to the day I could afford my first horse farm, sold it, and got bombed. Hadn't drunk for my entire legal career because I was on a mission. Okay. I made up my mind that until I'd been successful in business and had retired, I would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as normies, as other men, in our case, as other women, right? Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. So he's abstained for 25 years because he's had this big career, right? Then he says, right, I deserve a drink. In 2 months, he was in hospital, puzzled and humiliated. 2 months after that many years, after 25 years, takes 2 months for him to end up in hospital. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found he could not. Is that not our experience? I couldn't stop on my own. Every means of solving his problems which money could buy was at his disposal. Every attempt failed. Here's the cautionary tale conclusion. Though a robust man at retirement, because he'd been sober for 25 years, he went to pieces quickly and he was dead within 4 years. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, but I want you to hear what that tale is telling you. He relapsed and died after 25 years of sobriety. It's a true story. My story is the same, not for the same length of time, but years on end when I was on a mission, when I built 3 businesses. While I was focused on doing those things, I didn't drink. So know that this can trick you so many different ways, and that you've got a little bit of time under your belt, we start to get complacent. At least I did. And I stopped going to meetings. I never worked the steps ever properly. And I certainly never took step one 100%. And step one only works if you do it 100%. It's the only step that you can do 100%. The rest is progress, not perfection. But until we admit absolutely, with rigorous honesty, that we are truly alcoholic or that our higher power is some other substance, we can't start this journey. So I hope you'll reflect on that, and I'm going to stop the recording.